Welcome to The Road Less Traveled with Tiffany Rosenbaum. This podcast is about sharing the success and failure of entrepreneurs. Join in and learn from others' mistakes so you don't have to go through the same hardships in business. Now let's welcome your host, business coach, real estate investor, and proud wife and mom, Tiffany Rosenbaum.
Welcome to another episode of The Road Less Traveled. We are so incredibly excited. We have Clate Mask here today, and from a New York's bestseller. He helped start Infusionsoft and Keap, great companies, by the way. And now you are on a mission to make Phoenix a top software city, which I'm really excited to talk about, actually. So tell us a little bit about that. Thanks for coming on today, Clate.
Oh, great to be with you, Tiffany. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your mission of making Phoenix, real quick, the top software company. Because that's not an easy venture.
Well, we started Infusionsoft and Keap in the Phoenix metro area. There's a lot of great software companies here. When we sold last year, I stayed on to help on a consulting basis with Thrive, the company that acquired us. But I also started to work with other software companies, and I love this work. It's really like, if you think about what we did at Infusionsoft and Keap, it was about helping small businesses succeed. This is just niching down to software in Phoenix, and I started doing it with a handful of companies, and then I realized there's a bigger thing here, not only to help more software companies win, but to make Phoenix a top software city, like Salt Lake or Austin or Denver, some of these other cities that have, they're not Silicon Valley, but they're a really good tier 2 software city. And we can and should be that here in the Phoenix metro area. I'm helping to lead a nonprofit that's mission is to make Phoenix a top software city by helping software companies win. I do that as my day job, and then I do my consulting work with my clients on the side.
Okay, so you said help small businesses win. I'd love to hear about that because I'm also very passionate about that. So how do you help when you go into a business? How do you help them win? What do you look at? What do you see in their struggles are?
Yeah, so for 20 plus years, we built Infusionsoft, which was then renamed Keap, as a company that helped small businesses succeed. And what we saw over and over and over was a lack of systems and processes that hamstring the growth of the company. And in particular, we would see it in the sales and marketing process. And you can't grow the business, you can't grow sales if you've got broken systems in your sales and marketing. So what we did at Infusionsoft and Keap was really focus on marketing automation, what we call life cycle automation, from sales to marketing to customer success. Really, it's all the follow-up that needs to happen in that process. And unfortunately, in most small businesses, that follow-up breaks down. It hamstrings the growth of the company. Small businesses don't succeed at the rate they should, and entrepreneurs are frustrated. Their spouses or teams are looking at them like, what are we doing? Why is this not working?
Oh, that follow-up is, like, I would say, the number one thing entrepreneurs have to understand. Yes. It's so key to the success of any business. How fast, how many times you follow up to make sure it gets done.
So true. I tell people all the time, I said this for 20 years as we built that company, that follow-up is the key to growth. The more you follow up, the more you're going to grow. It's as simple as that. More follow-up equals more sales, and yet people don't do it, and there's reasons why they don't do it, but those reasons are shooting themselves in the foot.
Oh, 100%. So when you started Infusionsoft, what were some road bumps so that we can get on the same level here a little bit with our viewers, because they're going through the grind right now. Yeah. What were some road bumps that you saw when you started Infusionsoft?
Yes. Well, it's funny. I joined up with my wife's 2 younger brothers. We were, trying to build a software company, and I thought it was going to, I thought I had come from a bigger company. I thought it was going to be way faster. I had an economics degree from ASU and a law degree and an MBA, and I was so full of myself. I thought it was just going to be so easy to build this company, and it was brutally hard. It was so difficult, and we were just struggling every day to keep the lights on. And it was about 2 years into that process where I was like, my wife Charisse was like, hey, what are we doing? This is not working. You went to college for 8 years and we're making no money, like we're dying here. And I kept saying, things are getting better. We're like, it's getting better. She'd be like, no, it's not getting better for me. And so we just lived the challenge that entrepreneurs live, the tension in the marriage, the stress on the founders, the weight that you're carrying, just trying every day to make it work. And it was in the process of that we kind of invented this automated follow-up process in marketing and sales. And when we started using it, first our customers started using it, and then I started using it in our work, and it changed the game for us. It completely changed our business, and we became believers in it, and then we started to spread it to small businesses far and wide.
I love that. I want to go back to what you said, the weight, the stress on the marriage, the stress. I mean, everything's on your shoulders. How did you deal with that when you were going through that? Because that's not easy, and I think that is not shown.
Yes.
It's like this curtain that is in front of entrepreneurs, because today you see on social media everybody needs to be a business owner. Now, don't get me wrong, if you want to do it, great, but I think the curtain needs to be opened a little bit.
Yes.
So how did you deal with that? Like, what did you do to get through that time? Because it's not easy.
No, it's really tough. I'll tell you that I agree with you completely about how people need to really understand it. After running the business for about 6 or 7 years, my co-founder and I wrote a book called Conquer the Chaos. And then we did a revised edition a couple of years ago with 15 years of learnings. And I would tell people that, they read Conquer the Chaos, the 6 keys to success for entrepreneurs. But to answer your question in short, it was a combination of faith, family, and just crazy, irrational grit and persistence. And I say irrational because Charisse was right. Like, the business was not working. I was absolutely delusional. And it was not rational to believe that we were going to make that little business turn into something meaningful. There's a reason why only 1% of people can be entrepreneurs, and there's a reason why only a fraction of those are successful, because it's not rational. It's crazy to think that you're going to turn nothing into something and create a business when it hasn't been done before. And so, there's, when I say I had faith, I had undying belief that we would be successful. And just every day, I remember in the hardest times, Tiffany, I would just be like, gosh, I would not wish this on my worst enemy. This is so hard. And it's so much more difficult than I thought it would be. And everybody around me, my mom and dad are worried for me. My wife is telling me I'm crazy. Everybody wants me to go get a real job. And yet I believe in this thing. And I have no business believing in this thing, but I believe in it. So what I found was, about the time when I was really, really like emotionally strung out, I was like just feeling like I was done, or I couldn't keep doing it. I read a book called The Power of Positive Thinking that my dad had recommended to me about 10 years prior, when I was a smart teenager and thought I knew everything. I didn't read the book when my dad recommended it to me, but when I was in the depths of this struggle, that book came to my mind, the title of it, and I got it and read it, and it helped me to intentionally cultivate a positive mindset. And I believe that was the difference between that company failing and succeeding.
You said so many profound and very important things during that I'm gonna kind of jump a little bit. But you said you have to be irrational, and I totally believe that, because one moment you're underneath the desk crying, going, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? I don't know. But you have this belief that it can be something so much greater, and it's and you said it perfectly. And then, I think what you said about the positive thinking, you have to have that positive thinking, and you have to be on, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out, and not play on anything else. Because if you go on the doubt, there's no way that it will work out. I love that you said that. The positive thinking, because I have a saying that I always talk about, and it's what you think is what you believe, and what you believe is what you become. And I think that's the same in business. Whatever you think, you're going to believe. And whatever you believe, it's going to become.
Yes.
you know? So if you're always
Absolutely.
playing
My
on your
dad taught
doubts
me
or
this thing. Oh, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
My dad taught me this thing that goes, I love your quote. My dad taught me this thing years and years ago. And again, when I was young, I didn't really understand it. My dad was a teacher, but he started his career in sales, and he really got into positive mental attitude. And when I was, like I said, when I was young, I just sort of rolled my eyes and didn't really listen to it. And then when I started to get into the depths of entrepreneurship and the challenge and the struggle of it, all the things he had taught me started to come back to my mind. And one of the things he taught me was our thoughts turn into words, our words turn into beliefs, our beliefs turn into actions, our actions turn into habits, and our habits turn into our outcomes. And you said essentially that same thing. And the power of our words is amazing. That from thought to belief, I've come to realize how right my dad was. The thing that's in between is words. And we literally, with our mouths, we create our reality. We think it, we speak it. And we have a choice every day to talk about how difficult it is and how hard it is and how, I don't know if we're going to make it, or we have a choice every day to say, I know that this is going to work out. I know this is difficult, but we're doing this. We've made progress. Look where we were before. And to start building through our words a belief. And so and then once entrepreneurs believe it and they truly believe it, then it becomes reality. But they have to believe it, and they have to surround themselves with people who believe it. And that is the way we cultivate belief intentionally. It's through our thoughts, it's through our words. It's by, frankly, you might have to stop being around some people as an entrepreneur who don't believe in you if you believe in it. And the hardest place where that comes to a head is in a marriage. And that was the tension point that I was in when Sharice and I had that, that confrontation. And gratefully, she got behind me, and she started to believe in it. And it was through her faith that happened. And we ended up building an amazing company.
That's amazing, because I do find behind every entrepreneur, that one that has that drive, that there's someone strong behind them. They might have questioned it, and there's definitely that tension. Don't get me wrong, especially someone, I know you got to be really driven, because talking to you, someone that sees that vision that no one else can really see.
Right.
And they're like, no, I know this is going to happen, to get those other people to come on board with that and to take that ride with you is so hard. But and to continue to go and to make those irrational decisions to get to the outcome. I love that. And I haven't met Sharice, but she's got to be one amazing woman to go along with the ride on entrepreneurship.
She's incredible. And if it weren't for her faith, it wouldn't have worked out, because I would have chosen her over the business. And I'll tell you the story. What happened one day is we were about 2.5 years into the business. We had 4 kids at the time. We were up to our eyeballs in debt. We were not bringing home, any money hardly at all. It was really bad. And she was like, look, you have to go get a job. And I'd kind of bought about a year saying, hey, things are getting better. Things are getting better. And she finally, on this night, she was like, they're not getting better for me. I can't keep doing this. You have to promise me you'll go look for a job. And I said, okay, I will. And then she's like, no, like tomorrow. You have to promise me that tomorrow when you go to the office, you will look for a job. And I tried to talk my way out of it, and I realized this was like lots of tears on both sides. And I said, okay, I will look for a job tomorrow. So the next day I went into work, and I had every intention of looking for a job, but the business just swallowed me whole, like it does so often. And I'm driving home, and I'm like, holy crap, I don't know what I'm going to say to Sharice. I didn't look for a job. I felt bad that I hadn't done what I said I would do. I felt bad because our marriage was in such a tense situation. I felt bad that I hadn't been providing for 2.5 years. I mean, I just felt awful. And I walked in, and Sharice found me right away, said, did you look for a job today? And I said, no. And I braced myself for what was going to come next. And she walked over to me, and she gave me a huge hug.
Aww.
And she just held me. And I was like holding her, and I didn't know what was going on. And I kind of tried to pull back, and she just held on to me. And then I could tell she was shaking, and I could tell she was crying. And I eventually, then I started crying. I didn't know why she was crying. I didn't know why I was crying. We were both just standing there in the kitchen crying. And then she stepped back and I said, "What happened?" And she said, because I could tell she had softened, like it was just different. And I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Everything's going to be okay. God knows what we're doing. Just keep going." And what had happened is that day she had really immersed herself in her faith, and she just got some comfort and some reassurance that it was going to be okay. And once she said that to me, it was like, game on, let's go. Like we're going to do this. And it didn't just get better right away, but within about 6 or 8 months, we started to bring home consistent income. Within another year after that, my mom and dad and nobody else was worried about me anymore. They started saying, "Hey, you're really succeeding," and it just took off from there. But it was her faith and her amazing willingness to stay in my corner that made the difference.
I love that story because I find so much the successful entrepreneurs, they've all gone through something like that.
Yep.
Where it's like
Yep.
they had that moment and it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I'm
Yep.
supposed to do this.
Yes.
I had an experience like this. We were on food storage and we had a kid and I mean, no money was coming in and we were
Yeah.
trying to figure out. And I remember laying in bed just bawling one night. As clear as day, the Lord said, "Don't I always take care of you?"
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but I said, "Yeah, but could you really hurry up here? This sucks."
I'm kind of dying here.
I'm on food storage and I can't pay bills and I have no heat in my home. And it's like those times. And I'm going to ask you a question because I would love to hear, would you ever take back that struggle?
Never.
Isn't that interesting?
At the time, it was I wouldn't have wished it on my worst enemy. And today, I hope my competitor never gets to experience it. It was what created the company. And my dad was a teacher, and he told me one time in the early days when we were struggling, and my parents didn't have great means, but they could have helped us a little more, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and they make no mistake, they did help. There were times where we had nothing in the cupboards. I came home and mom had gone on a Costco run for us and done, they did amazing things for us. But one time my dad said to me something that was, I didn't realize how profound it was at the time. And now that I've got 6 kids and 7 grandkids, he was so right. He said, sometimes he calls me lad a lot. He said, "Lad, I could help you out some more financially, but I would never do that to you." And I remember when he said it, it didn't make any sense to me. I was like, "Do you not realize that?" But there's such power in the struggle and figuring it out and relying on your spouse and on your friends and on God and just working your way through it. There's no substitute for that struggle, and there's no substitute for the delusional thinking that's required. Steve Jobs, "Here's to the crazy ones." That's what it takes. But it takes one other thing that I didn't quite realize, and I talk about it in my book. It's not just optimism. It's not just belief. There's a great story that Jim Collins, who wrote Built to Last and Good to Great and a bunch of incredible books, he tells about a guy named Admiral James Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in the Hanoi Hilton in the Vietnam War. And the story is that he got out, and Jim Collins was interviewing him one day and said, how did you get out? And what made the difference? And Collins thought that Stockdale was going to say it was all about optimism. And he said, it was the people who were the most optimistic that didn't make it. And he said, "What? How does that make any sense?" And he said, "Yeah, they would convince themselves that by Mother's Day we're going to be out of here, or by Christmas we're going to be out of here, and those days would come and go, and they'd end up dying of a broken heart that it didn't work out." And so Jim Collins said, "So what was it? What actually worked?" And he said, "It's the combination of an undying belief that you will succeed, combined with confronting the brutal facts of your current reality. That is it."
100%.
Confronting the brutal facts of your current reality. And in fact, when entrepreneurs do this, they start to realize, well, because it's not just to be successful, it's we're going to be successful and our customer is telling us we really suck and we need to change some things, right? Okay, well, let's confront the brutal facts because that's actually the raw material that we need to transform into success. But if we turn a blind eye, if we bury our head, if we just are optimistic, but we don't confront the brutal facts, then we don't make it. And that's the key lesson for entrepreneurs. I call it disciplined optimism.
Oh, I love that because we call it feedback, but like taking asking the hard questions. Like you have to get the true reality. Otherwise, let's be honest, we're all like a little bit blinded by, oh, we're great at what we do, right? But in reality, there are people that know our mistakes, and if we will ask them, they will tell us. And that feedback is what gets us better. That gets us 100% where we want to be. But you can't improve, you can't get better, you can't learn and grow unless we're willing to ask those hard questions. I love that you said that because I heard that story, and I love that story because he's the one that got out because he knew he would succeed, but he's like, yeah, I'm in hard right now. This is my life. Right. Let's make it happen, you know?
Yep, exactly.
So, that is a great story. So what did you do once you started having success, once you started building your team? How many team members did you get to within Infusionsoft?
Yeah, we had at our peak, we were at about 700 employees.
Wow. Okay, so from the day you started it being one person to that 700, what transformation did you have to do personally to make sure you could lead the 700?
Oh, that's a book. I'll say this. First of all, I was actually the fourth person that joined. We had co-founders. And so when I wasn't number one, but when I started it off, it was like, okay, let's set a vision here. Let's start working together. And then we started to build the company. And it took about, like I said, it took about 2.5 or 3 years of just brutal struggle. By the way, there was a crucial mindset shift that happened at the toughest time shortly after I started reading, or shortly after I read The Power of Positive Thinking. When you cultivate positivity and you start to generate gratitude and you see things that are going well, it breeds more of it. And there was a period of time where I realized, crap, man, every day we're just getting hammered. Like I don't know if like every day is so hard. And I was like, if we have one quote unquote good day a month, that was like saying something, like 29 sucky days and one good day. And I remember that something happened shortly after I read that book. And I realized every day we survived, we got closer to success. And it became about surviving and the triumph of surviving another day, making it another day, make it another day, make it another day. And I believed, I started to have solid belief inside of me that we were getting closer, like we were going to make it. And it was, instead of worrying every day of, is this thing going to work? It shifted to, no, it's going to work. It's just a matter of my tenacity and grit and persistence and finding the wins every day and being grateful that we live to see another day and another day and another day. And then it becomes about progress instead of like, hey, success isn't just binary yes, no. It's like we're progressing. We're getting better and getting better and better and better. So I just wanted to share that because I think we couldn't have built a company that had 700 employees and was, valued at nearly $1 billion. Like we couldn't have done that if we didn't cultivate that positive mentality. And we tried to do that with our employees. We had amazing people. Summer Rae and I were just talking before this. Some of them introduced us. Tiffany, I don't know if you know that, but they were we built an incredible company through intentional culture building, hiring, coaching, and firing to the vision that we had set for the company. And that made all the difference.
That's amazing. Did you have to, not just a mindset shift, but did you have to become a different leader?
Yes. So when we wrote the first edition of our book, we talk about the stages of growth in business. Everybody knows that businesses don't just grow up and to the right. But what we started to see after 6 years or so of working with thousands of small businesses is we had this vantage point where we could see where they would get stuck in the growth trajectory. And long story short, we started to recognize that there were very predictable points where they would get stuck. And in a crazy little twist that I thought was ironic, but gradually we started to realize that it's just a law of business. The plateaus happen and the stair steps occur on the ones and threes of revenue. So when you get to 100,000 in annual revenue, it's a different company when you get to 300,000 than when you get to 1 million to 3 million to 10 to 30 to 100. Things change significantly at the ones and threes of revenue, and if you don't make adjustments, you plateau at the ones and threes. So my answer to you about did I have to change? Yeah, I had to change at the ones and threes of revenue. If I didn't, the company would not grow to the next stage. And truthfully, we built it to about 100 million, and I never figured out quite how to crack that 100 million. We got to about 120, but I was not able to be the leader to get us through to that next stage. We ended up selling the company. But I look back at that and I think, who did I need to be at that next stage? And maybe I just needed to not be the leader anymore. So.
But I love that you said that because I find that 100% even in my own businesses, like you have to change and you have to create new ways because otherwise you will platform. And it happens in our industry so much. I go to conferences and they're like, I've plateaued. Yep. I can't go anywhere. And it's interesting. You have to change and you have to become that different leader. And it gets you out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to be comfortable with being very uncomfortable.
Yep. And the reality is that when you, on the ones and threes of revenue, the business will plateau if the leader doesn't make changes to people, process, and systems. Mm-hmm. And the most important people change is the leader. And it doesn't mean that you have to change entirely at each stage. But what I found is that if founders don't make an adjustment every 2 stages, so that means the company's grown 10x, right? To go from 100,000 to 1 million. What got you to 1 million won't get you to 3 million and definitely not to 10 million as a leader. You've got to make adjustments. And a lot of times the founders are willing to make those adjustments, but their people aren't willing to make those adjustments. And so the founder just has to be conscious of that, making changes in themselves and then changes in their people, process, and systems to free up the next stage of growth.
Oh, I love that you said that. Yeah, we're in the middle of complete software changeover for this exact reason. Mm-hmm. It's a pain, but it's like we came to it and a decision had to be made to actually be able to go forward. Otherwise, we were going to stay stagnant, and it was just is what it is. So I love that you said that. As our viewers and our listeners are here and listening, what advice would you give to them as they're going through this roller coaster, as they're seeing, I mean, you've been really real and raw, which I love, but what would you give advice to them about to help them through this journey?
Yeah, it depends on the stage they're in. In the early stages, when you're trying to get to your first 100,000 in annual revenue, like getting to 100, it really is about the combination of mindset that you can do this and getting reps in, getting the time in. So many times what happens in that early stage is people just they're too cautious. They hold back instead of like, no, you just got to get in and screw up a bunch, make a bunch of mistakes and get reps in, imperfect action, take imperfect massive action. Like that's what you've got to do. And you have to have a mindset that like a learning and growth mindset, not like, is this right mindset? No, I guarantee you it's not right. It's not going to be, but that's what I would say in the first stage. That's stage 1. When stage 2, when you go from 100,000 to 300,000, it is about the founder learning to sell. Period. If you as a founder are not embracing sales and you think you're going to hire someone to save you and get sales, and you have not yet gotten to 300,000, just go declare game over. Because I'm telling you, I've watched this thousands and thousands of times. Someone, a founder, a co-founder, one of the leaders of the business has to take on the responsibility of sales to get to 300,000. That's what I would say there. From 300,000 to a million, it becomes about following up in an automated way. You have to follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. That's how you grow from 300,000 to a million, is you do more follow up. And so that's what I would say in the 0 to a million. I've got different things I would say from 1 to 3, 3 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 100. But because 90%, 95% of small businesses are under a million, I think I just covered 95% of our audience.
I love that, because you do have to change, and you do have to be willing to. They say, if you look at Elon Musk or any of the big ones that have become very, very successful, they're willing to make a decision very quickly, and they're willing to pivot if needs to be. But that decision doesn't take very long. Even Amazon, they're like, just make the decision, just go for it, and then we'll find out if it's wrong. But making the decision and trying to figure out if it's right before you ever make the decision, you take too long, and then you lose so much opportunity.
I'm so glad you said that. That is what happens in that early stage. Is we obsess over decisions as though they are going to make us win or not win. The fact of the matter is, the decision is not right or wrong. The decision is just what it is. It's what you do after the decision that makes it a good decision or a not good decision. And so, like, forget the decision. It doesn't matter. Just make the frickin' decision and then go to work, and then you'll adjust if you need to adjust. But how many decisions can you make? And well, early on, people spend way too much time worrying about decisions and not nearly enough time just making it, it's moving, getting into action. Like, that's why I say massive imperfect action.
Oh, I love that. And massive imperfect action. I think that's, you got to make some massive moves to continue to evolve and to elevate. Now, if you had to, including your book, because Conquer the Chaos, I think, is a fantastic book, including that one, because everybody should read that one. What's another book that you'd recommend for our viewers?
Yeah. If they're in that very early stage, The Power of Positive Thinking is amazing. If they are in the stage of 300,000 to a million, The E-Myth is really good. Systematizing your business. Michael Gerber's a good friend of mine, wrote the foreword to Conquer the Chaos. Longtime customer of ours. He's awesome.
What if they're in the 1 million to 10 million?
Yeah, if they're in the 1 million to 10 million, by the way, all the books I say, they're additive. That's not like instead of. You need to read those books. So, but if you're in the 1 million to 10 million, there's a really great book out there called Beyond Entrepreneurship. It's a Jim Collins book. Hardly anybody knows about it because it wasn't written for big companies, so like Good to Great and Built to Last and his titles that were, massive New York Times bestsellers. But he wrote a book, and you want to get the original version. I told him it was his best book, and he should do a revised edition, and I actually helped him a little bit on it, and he did do a revised edition. It's called Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0, BE 2.0. It's good, but it's not as good as the first one. The first one's actually better. So they should read Beyond Entrepreneurship, because when you get to a million, the name of the game, the leadership change that needs to occur is, now you can't just lead and kind of command and control a small group of 5 to 10 employees. Now you have to actually set a vision, and you've got to hire to it, you've got to coach to it, you've got to fire to it. And chapter 2 of Beyond Entrepreneurship is the book for 1 to 10, but it's chapter 2 in particular that teaches people how to set their purpose, their values, their mission, to create a vision that people want to come be a part of. And that's what you've got to do to grow from 1 to 10 million. You still have to do all of the sales and the marketing and the follow-up and the product work and the customer success, all the things that got you to a million. But now it becomes about setting a vision, building a team, and Beyond Entrepreneurship is a great book to help people with that.
Oh, I love that. And I'm going to ask the next step, 10 to 20 million. What book?
So in the run from 10 to 30 million, that becomes about leaders who set a rhythm of execution to the business consistent with the vision and the strategy and operations of the business. So it becomes like, once you get to 10, now it's like, okay, now we need leaders who are leading their function, and they're leading their function effectively while doing it in a systematic, rhythmic way. So you have to get a planning rhythm in place. You have to get your organizational processes in place, because now you've got when you in that run from 10 to 30, you're going from, somewhere around 50 employees to 200 employees, like roughly in that range. Well, how do you lead that many people? You have to have processes and systems for the organization, for the leadership, and it has to be led by your leadership team. So now it's not the CEO in the run from 10 to 30 million. It's not the CEO that's hiring leaders. It's now those leaders are working together as an executive team. The CEO truly becomes a chief executive officer of a team of executives that are leading their function in a way that's consistent with the vision of the company, aligned with a rhythm of execution.
I love it. What is, two other questions, and I will be respectful of your time, but what is the best advice you've ever received?
When I was a kid, my dad would say to me over and over and over and over, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And to me, that's the foundation of a mindset that can accomplish anything with God's help and work with other great people. So to me, if I could pass something along to my kids or to my grandkids or to my friends or entrepreneurs, it's you can do it. Not out of humility, or sorry, not out of ego, but out of humility, not out of hubris, but out of a calm confidence that you can do it with the help of other great people and God. You can do anything.
I love that. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
That's a really great question. I've never thought of it that way, but I would probably say that to build a big company, we needed to serve smaller businesses. And we made that mistake. We tried to go down market to smaller businesses that didn't have the problems that our software solved. And it pretty much stalled the growth of the company. That was a strategic mistake that we made that I should have fixed it sooner than I eventually did.
We all have those mistakes, I think. That's what the entrepreneur is all about.
Yep.
Clay, it has been a great experience talking with you. I think I could talk to you for hours and feel like I learned so much. Where can our people find you? Where can they look you up to get in contact with you?
Thanks, Tiffany. It's been great talking with you as well. They can go to conquerthechaosbook.com. They can get the book there. There's some other resources there. But in Conquer the Chaos, I talk about the 6 keys to success for entrepreneurs. And 3 of them are personal because we know how personal entrepreneurship is. And 3 of them are business. And the three personal keys are mindset, vision for your life, and a rhythm of execution for your life. It's really like goal setting and how do you tie it all together into a vision of a beautiful life that you love. And then the business side is strategy, automation, and leadership. So I go into depth on those 6 keys in Conquer the Chaos book, or Conquer the Chaos. They can get it at conquerthechaosbook.com or at bookstores or Amazon or wherever else. And I love helping entrepreneurs, and I literally wrote that book. I did the second edition. I went to my co-founder, said, "Hey, so much has changed. I think we should write a second edition." And he said, "You know what? Why don't you go do that?" So I ended up taking it on myself. I thought it was going to be about a 20% revision, but after 15 years of learning and working with hundreds of thousands of small businesses and entrepreneurs, I had a lot to share. And so it's about 90% was new in the revised edition. And so I poured everything into that so that entrepreneurs could get a hold of it. And there's a lot in it. I'll tell people, like people read it and they'll be like, "Wow, you covered a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. There's a lot there." So,
I've read the first one. I'm going to have to do the 2.0 now. I'm going to have to go read it because
the first book's terrible compared to the second one. I'll just say that. I read the first one, many times as I was revising it, and I was so embarrassed by the first book.
I thought it was great. No, but Clay, you have a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with us today. Because if they just got one nugget or listen to anything you just said and take it into their business, they can transform their business. So thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Tiffany. Thanks for all you do for entrepreneurs. I'm glad to help.
Thanks for tuning in today to The Road Less Traveled. If you're organizing an event, workshop, or simply planning something exciting and would like to have Tiffany Rosenbaum join you or want to have her on your podcast, visit TiffanyMRosenbaum.com and click on Book Tiffany to get started.